You got a crazy ass true story to tell. It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak it, surely none will make a sound. The world going breathless when your true story comes around.
Welcome back to Your Best True Story, episode 21, everyone. And yes, you are correct. Your ears did not deceive you. That is a new version of the theme song. And I know you love the original theme song. It's not going away, not entirely replacing it with this new song, but thought it was kind of cool to change it up a little bit and give the song this kind of new funk vibe twist, which I actually like a lot. And if you want to hear this version in its entirety, just wait till the end of the show, and I've got the entire song on there, and it's actually pretty badass. So I like the way it turned out. And today's episode is not a story episode. If you're new to the show, the way it works is we typically, most of the shows in a month, play stories called into us. Once a month, though, we have what we call our interview show with the story winner from the prior month. And for July, for last month, it was Brian Latimer, who goes by the handle Angry PhD, and he called in a pretty funny story about one of his students having kind of a shocking interpretation of how the moon works. And if you haven't heard that story yet, feel free to go back. It's just the last episode. World of academia that are largely, a lot of them, based on truth, as he explains in the interview, but then he's putting it into a fictionalized setting, and all those links to his book and his social media will be in the show notes. So please definitely feel free to go there and show Brian some love after he listened to the interview. And if you also get a chance, please go to the newly launched YouTube page for Your Best True Story. There'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. And anything you can do to subscribe to it, like any of the videos, is very appreciated. It's very helpful, because just taking those actions, even though free to you to subscribe and like the videos, then that tells the YouTube algorithm that it should be promoting them. So that helps us promote the show. And also, for anyone that's seen the videos, we've gotten quite a bit of favorable feedback on them, because it basically adds a new dimension to the stories. So you're not listening to the whole podcast on YouTube. You're just literally clicking on any story you want to see visualized, basically. So it's a great way for people that are more interested in the stories than the commentary. Definitely subscribe to the YouTube page, and as we get more of the videos made and released, eventually all the stories should be up there, and all of them pretty entertaining to watch be brought to life. And now, without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and jump into the interview with Brian Latimer, who is the Angry PhD, and drops some pretty funny and insightful knowledge on us about what goes on in today's professional academic world. All right. Welcome to the show, Brian Latimer. Thank you very much for joining us. You are the July Story Vote winner for Your Best True Story podcast. So we always appreciate people coming on. We like to hear if you got any more stories, kind of talk to the story winners and find out a little bit more depth about the story that won. And we always like to start off the interview shows by just asking, have you spent the prize money on anything interesting yet?
Absolutely not. I haven't done that. If anything, it'll go to probably our renovation fund at the house when I moved into this place. So I bought a house from a Mennonite family that had 10 children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they were busy.
Yeah.
And they needed space, and they built a really nice house. But the people who owned it after them and before me kind of let things go a little bit. So we've been fixing it up ever since we bought it. I kind of understood that when I bought the house, and so we've still working on the second floor. Eventually, we'll get to the first. But
That sounds like you're going to need more than $250.
I mean, it'll get a couple nice boxes of vinyl flooring. But I appreciate it. Anything where I don't have to actually invest my own money would be great. So yeah, I'm not complaining.
Nice. Well, you can always enter again to get another $250 in 3 months. We instituted a rule you can't win except like every 3 months. So
okay, because I was like, oh man, I as an educator, we have lots of stories, and so yeah, there's a lot I could do.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that because obviously if somebody hasn't heard your story yet, it was actually just the last episode, which pretty entertaining story, obviously, of one of your students that had a little bit of a misconception about what the moon does. Yeah. And maybe if you could give, just before we get into other things, a little context of about that story. Did that student ever graduate? Did they make it very far?
I don't know. And it's interesting that you asked that question about graduating, because in a separate little piece of that, this student openly admitted in class she was not there to get a degree. She was there to get her MRS. And I had never heard of that at the time until that moment. One of the things about the school where I was doing that, because to give a greater context for everything, right? So I was in the middle of getting my PhD, and part of the deal is you, in order so you don't have to pay extra money, because, to get a PhD, typically you do 10 years of college. So there's a reason why if you ever went to college, your professors were a little off. It's part of the reason. You spend 10 years there as a student, chemical imbalances. So I was in the middle of my PhD program, and part of the deal is you don't have to pay for school other than mandatory fees, but you have to teach some classes, and they'll give you a little stipend, just enough so you can afford ramen. And she dropped that little nugget. Like I say, this was for a speech. It was a persuasive speech, and the whole deal was I have them work in groups, because I always feel that if you sit in a small group and you pitch your ideas, I mean, this is going to be basically a focus group of the larger audience that you're going to be speaking to, and if they find it interesting, then by and large the rest of the audience should find it interesting.
Yeah. So
I put them in groups. I have them work on stuff, and I go around just throwing out suggestions and whatnot. And I had the first student who threw out the idea of, we should colonize the moon. Cool. I'm down with that. I will advocate students speak their minds on pretty much anything. Whatever far out ideas you got, I'm cool with. So, me, I like to just throw in, like, I'm usually something mildly sarcastic, primarily to show that, I have been listening, and just something stupid to think about, because, some people, oh, that sounds like a great idea, but that's not really good feedback. Yeah. So, if I throw out something like that, like, oh yeah, Alexander Abian, he was pushing that we should blow up the moon in the 1990s. I don't know whatever happened to Mr. Abian, but I do know that was something that he was proposing. And the group got it. There was like a group of 5 students, 4 of the 5 got it. And then the other one, she didn't. And she is staring at me with just the most serious look, and is like, but if we blow up the moon, there won't be any more nighttime. And how can I put this? I have experienced stupid in my classroom A lot. I try not to throw that word around in class. Anymore, I try to claim everything is just naivete. Like when I start talking about certain technologies and they have like no clue what a cassette tape is and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Or a VHS cassette, that kind of hurts.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them even now don't even have like physical media. And that kind of troubles me. It's like, but you don't own anything. But anyway.
Wait, I got a question before you go further.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that she was a comic genius and was doubling your sarcasm back to you?
Okay, so I have counterpoints to that.
Okay.
First and foremost, one of the first things she did in our introductory speeches, she said that Tim Tebow was the greatest quarterback of all time.
Hmm.
And this is back during the height of Tebow mania, and I think he had just won a playoff game. So, she's all about that, right?
Okay.
And then when she admitted that she wasn't here in college to earn a degree, it was to earn her MRS. Because the interesting thing about the school that I taught at, it was the only school in the state that that had a law school and a med school. So, and after she said it, I started looking around, and so I did notice a few young ladies hanging around the entranceways to the law school and the med school, and then it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, okay, maybe she's not that dumb.
Yeah,
but still, it was like, how did you get here? That you honestly believe? Because like I said in the story. The student that I made that comment to started trying to explain to her how day and night worked, and she was arguing back.
Wow.
Just wholly believe that that's what it does. When the moon rises, darkness approaches.
Brings with it the night.
Yeah,
that would be so much cooler if that was the way it worked.
Yeah, and in my mind, like 10,000 things are running through my mind, but like one of them is, haven't you ever seen the moon in the day? Like that happens. Like even when I was 6, I saw that, and I thought something was happening, like the world was ending. But at least I saw that the moon was out in the middle of the day.
And not to completely derail the conversation about you teaching, but I've just got a side question that has been bugging me of the guy that you mentioned that wanted to blow up the moon. What was his reasoning for wanting to blow up the moon? What is do you remember or know?
The main thing I remember is something to do with the tides.
Huh.
And from people that I've talked to and things like that, like it would be like a massive shift at first, but then there wouldn't be tides.
Yeah.
Like I think that's like the biggest thing that I got from it, but I don't know, just keep up with it.
Are tides that big of a problem? Does anyone?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I mean, sure, it might annoy you at the beach if you fall asleep, but I don't know what else it could possibly do to you. Yeah, some creatures might not die in tide pools, but other than that, I legitimately don't know.
I'm pretty sure a bunch of ecosystems might fail if the tides just stopped happening.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
This ain't my thing.
Freddie, my desire to like start a cult someday that's around this sounds like a core idea that I can.
Yeah, but this one's already been done, Jim.
Getting rid of the moon?
You'd be riding on coattails. No.
Okay.
Stopping the tides.
Oh, huh. I thought that was fresh and would get the people excited. No?
You're gonna have to strain your brain a little harder.
At least get some moon colonizers. Maybe you can start there.
Yeah, well, that sounds exciting at least. And before we get completely deep into moon, I wanted to let the audience know also real quick about your book, which I was hoping we could talk about, called Remus College. Yeah. And you, I think, just came out with it earlier this year, but the reason why this is definitely relevant, if I can read a little bit from the description of the book on Amazon, The exploits of the Remus College staff reflect a toxic work culture that could only happen at an institution of higher learning, between faculty fistfights in the campus parking lots, administration ciphering money off for their decadent desires, and students keeping human remains in their dorm room. It's a wonder the accreditation board didn't seal the doors to this institution years ago. So you mentioned you've got a lot of stories of students and from academia, and it sounds like you do, based on that novel you wrote.
Yeah.
How much of that is true? How much is?
So, first of all, it is part 1 out of 4.
Oh, wow.
That's how much I have. And it's not just me. It's a collection of stories from other people that I know. And I've sort of created this fictional setting for all of this to happen in one spot. But most of the stuff in there is relatively true. I've taken liberties, like everybody does, but by and large, it is a lot of what happens in academia. Some of it, but like I say, the big thing about it is the toxic work cultures. Like, it amazes me that, I've had people tell me about their jobs and how, oh, these people or this coworker's like this, or this one's out to get me, or something like that. And I'm like, you want to learn about academia? Where we're all supposedly smart? Like, we're nuts, apparently. And I guess that is true. You spend 10 years of your life going through college just to, stay in college the rest of your life. And, I always make the argument that anybody that you meet who has their PhD and they argue that you must call them Dr. So-and-so had a bad time. Because I have viewed grad school, especially grad school, so getting your master's, getting your PhD, as a form of academic hazing. And if your academic hazing went bad and you feel like it was like your personal war, you're going to be a little high and mighty about it after you're done.
Yeah.
I personally did not have those kind of problems. I mean, yeah, you have setbacks and you have professors who are a little particular about certain things you should be doing in terms of your research and stuff like that, but I didn't really seem to have that big of a problem. But I know some people who had the worst experiences, and by and large, those individuals are the ones who have that high and mighty attitude. And I just don't abide by stuff like that.
And it definitely does seem like I definitely don't have any personal experience, just have a bachelor's degree, so I've never dealt in that world too much, but it definitely, there seems to be a theme from anyone that talks about it of the overwhelming bureaucracy and lack of sort of objective thinking that's allowed. Independent thinking is from the trenches. How true is that? How difficult is it? And obviously from the description of your book, there's got to be a little bit of frustration there.
There can be. It's all in what you make of it. I have gone through 4 different institutions where I've taught. Everyone has their own sort of quirks and cultures and whatnot that you're going to run into. Bureaucracy, yes, is a problem. The way that colleges have expanded has not necessarily always been, growing the faculty. It's always been growing the administration, because I don't know, what kind of college experience you have, or if you have children and you're looking down the road for that. A lot of what you see in college now is primarily the college experience. It is a lot are steering away from quality faculty, which, faculty is always important, but they take a back seat to a lot of the things that the school likes to offer. Athletics has always been the big thing, and you'll always see SEC and all that. They'll push athletics all they want, but then there's this other layer for the non-athletes about the lifestyle and experience. So different schools offer some things you'd probably never expect to see at a university or college, like a lazy river, a rock climbing wall, or some offer lobster dinner. Like, what? but they're doing it.
Are you saying that colleges are turning into cruise ships?
In a way. There are schools who will, because they're advertising, they throw out the education part, they have to, but a lot will bank more on the experience that you get there, and not necessarily like work experience or anything, but like, this is the school for you because we offer these things, and that's part of the reason why tuitions goes up, and a lot of schools will, they do their best to recruit out of state because they get bigger amounts of tuition from out of state students. So like, that's why ASU, Arizona State, was they were known as the party school for the longest time, and they were upwards, I don't even know if this is still a thing, but like $50,000 a semester for out of state.
Wow.
I'm probably wrong now because it's been a long time. I doubt they dropped it, but they were
probably only more.
It is Tempe, Arizona, and you're square in the middle of the desert valley, and there's a lot to do, and then there's all this stuff you can do on top of that. So
it's basically like they are just prioritizing the marketing or the business promoting money making aspect of it to the degree where maybe at this point, if it's almost like not only are they intellectually objectionable to people not thinking in lockstep with them, but then there's potentially, if you don't go along with everything, then you're a jeopardy to the actual business they're creating. Is that kind of the?
I don't know if it's gone that far.
Okay.
I know, like, I can only speak on my own experience. I don't have a problem. I've not had a problem any place that I've ever had to be my outlandish self, because I've always had this problem with education being boring. And when I was in undergrad, I had a professor. We nicknamed him Dr. Ether, and Dr. Ether should have retired a long time ago. He got his PhD along with Moses, and his periodic table of elements were earth, wind, fire, and water. But he was still there collecting a paycheck from the taxpayers, and he taught this class called Junior Seminar. And basically the entire class was 1 hour a week for 16 weeks, building a resume. And knowing a resume is important. You got to tell your skills on a sheet of paper. That is important. However, when he came into class, because this class is 50 minutes a week, he would come in and he would start talking like this. Today, we are going to talk about references. And I remember the one time he actually cracked a joke. It was at the end of that exact section about it. And he's like, once you have your references, you can declare it Miller time. And it's like, I'm sorry. Are you using humor? Wow. Did they have it when you were a kid? And so, like, from that moment on, I made a decision in my life that if I was ever in front of a classroom, I was never going to be that way. So I use a lot of sarcasm in my classroom. In fact, today was first day, and very first thing I did in my class was, how many of you, this is your very first class in college? And about half of the students raised their hand. I'm like, I am so sorry. I am the bar that is set, because you're going to realize right after this, it's all downhill. And this is the best you got. So if you want to start looking at a transfer into someplace else, I'm not going to stop you. But this is the mountain. Congratulations.
Yeah, they probably appreciate the at least the breaking from the monotony. Like Dr. Ether probably only had that one joke, and he told it twice a year.
Probably. And I like I say, I can't be boring. Like I'll throw out things that'll just get my students riled up. Like one of the things is one of my students this morning said their favorite basketball player was LeBron.
Yep.
I get it. You're young. You don't know any better. And so I just threw this out there because I know it's just going to cause so much. And it did. It got them riled up. And for a 9 o'clock class, any kind of energy is good energy out of them. And I just said, oh, no. Best basketball player, hands down, Larry Legend. And they're like, who? And I'm like, I'm sorry. Do you even watch basketball? Do you even know basketball? Have you not played NBA 2K enough to know who that is? and they think I'm out of my mind. And I'm like, no, you watch some interviews from other players about Larry Bird, and they will tell you hands down he was the most brutal, trash talkingest, physical, most accurate shooter the NBA has ever seen. Yeah,
that I think do kids even nowadays realize Michael Jordan, who obviously was way after Larry Bird, is he already phased out of existence in their minds?
He stole LeBron's number.
Yeah, no.
He stole LeBron's number.
No, they still know who Jordan is. They still they'll still throw that out there because it's always the argument about championships.
Okay.
That's how they all like to make that argument. And I'm always of the opinion there is no such thing as a GOAT, GOAT.
Yeah.
I'm always an opinion of there's a GOAT, GOTE, greatest of their era. So that's how I try to distinguish things for them.
Yeah, Larry Bird was the most ruthless. And people that played in that era that talk about him, like he just would rip your heart out. And he was deadly before Kobe, and he was the original assassin.
Yeah.
Yep. And so speaking of today's youth, Brian, and our future, have you got any additional stories, entertaining stories from the classroom that you would like to share with us?
Okay. I'll give you a multiple guess quiz. You pick one and I'll go with it. All right. You got 3. And here are the titles. Microwave pants, Jerry Springer episode, and Mace the Camera.
Freddie, I'm going to let you pick.
Oh, the pants.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. That's what I was hoping.
Okay. So this one's probably the most bland out of all of them. So I taught an honors class one semester when I was getting my PhD, and it was an early class. I prefer early classes, but it was rather early for them. It was an 8 o'clock, and they were, they're honors kids. They're usually on time, prompt, and all this. And one morning, a huge swath of them came in late, and I'm like, what's up? Why are you all late? And I mean, their eyes and the bags under their eyes were just black as coal. I mean, they look like they'd not seen an ounce of sleep. And, they all in unison was like, fire alarm. Okay. Is everybody okay? I'm like, oh yeah, everyone's fine. Just the fire alarm was pulled at 2:30 in the morning. All right. And I was like, so do you know what caused it? Is there any damage to the dorm? Is any, no. Somebody decided that they had wet pants and they needed to dry them really quick. And so they got the bright idea to put their pants in the microwave. And denim jeans typically have a lot of rivets, and that's metal, and you don't put metal in a microwave, and it started a fire. Quickly got out of control. The city fire department was called in, and they were pulled out of their building for hour and a half. And this is the dead of winter. They were all pretty froze, and they didn't really get to sleep after that, so they were all in a pretty bad way.
And I am begging, I'm hoping that was the same girl as from the Moon story.
I wish. I don't know, but I always find that story interesting. Like even after I heard that, I was like, I wonder if that's even possible with regular clothes that don't have metal. Like, is that like I'm not gonna be the one to try it.
Yeah.
But is that something that's even feasible? Because
well, it's sort of like the Moon thing is you can see where the logic was.
Yeah.
It's not a huge leap, but yeah. I don't know if
what's the default setting for pants? Is it half an hour?
They've got a button on most of the microwaves now, Freddie. That's
right after potato.
Yeah, that says pants. That's potato pants.
I don't
prime
know.
rib.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like I've thought of a lot of dumb things, but
was the pants microwaver anyone in the class of yours? Or
no,
they just were in the dorm?
They're in the same dorm. That's all I know. And I don't think any of them would have admitted that.
Yeah.
Especially if they were an honor student, that would have been unfavorable on their reputation.
And so with your book Remus College, the series, when are the rest of those coming out? Do you have like an idea of how long?
Oh, mercy. So I'm more than halfway done with the second book.
Okay.
The second book has some crazy stuff in it between, let's see, well, I still got to write the chapter on when the COVID outbreak happened and basically how ill-prepared a lot of colleges were. Like, I don't know what your jobs were at the time, but, people were scrambling to try to make things work. And you would think a bunch of people, again, with fancy pieces of paper might be able to think this thing through, but no, it was more reactionary than anything else. And well, you got what we got. It was pretty bad.
Was there a lot of like top-down emails exchanged with rules but the rule doesn't make sense, but it says it right here, that we have to do this thing. Was there a lot of that?
Well, in this, the place, at my place and then a couple of my friends' places, there really weren't rules. Initially, there was just like, okay, we're just going to have extended spring break and hope this blows over. No. From what I understand, this stuff like stays in your body like 2 weeks at the time. I don't think, and we got 20-year-olds and they have this problem called hormones. They don't really know sometimes how to, keep their paws off of each other. When they're not like, if their hands aren't on their phone, they're on somebody else apparently. So, we gotta figure out how to do this right. And so, we did the online model and, that didn't really go too well. A lot of my students in that particular instance, they needed that structure. They needed to be in a place because if you're just learning from your bed, your bedroom, there's a good chance you're not really doing much of anything. And so like, I remember, my friends and my grades, we call them DFW rates, D's, F's, withdrawals. Those are like the bad ones. You want A, B's, and C's for the most part. And your DFWs typically should be maybe, unless you're too nice, hanging around somewhere between 5 and 10% at best. Like that should be your limit. Some of us were coming in 60, 70, 80%.
Wow.
Like it just didn't work. And it's like administration's like, well, did you try to get a hold of them? I was like, yes, I tried, but for whatever reason, they don't want to participate. I don't know why. It's just what, I'm hearing music, but I'm not seeing faces. So I don't know what's going on. I heard a little bit of Bob Marley on occasion too. Don't know what that meant, but I think they were in class, maybe.
And the dean of the college is probably just thinking, I can't run a cruise ship if everybody is, no one's on the boat. How are we who's gonna pay for the extra lobster?
Oh, it got pretty wild. Some places did make, I don't want to call them excuses, but they tried to make accommodations for it. Like it was a COVID semester, so they would.
You get 40 base points to your grade or something like that.
Sort of. It was like a SAT or unsat, like an S or a U grade. And so it wasn't necessarily like a failing grade, but it wasn't a good grade either. And so it was kind of like it kind of counts, but maybe doesn't. I'm like, whatever. I'm not even using this. I just know what I know. If you want to throw in new letters into the grading scale, you go right on ahead. I know these 5.
I love how like almost any organization of humans together, they have all these rules that they swear are set in stone, and then when the shit hits the fan, they're just making stuff up. It doesn't matter what. Yeah, it's always like, okay, let's add some new grades in.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because time didn't stop. Like, time is still progressing. You have another class coming behind them. So what do you do with this group that's sort of lost, but not really because of their own account, minus not showing up in the video chats and stuff?
Yeah, that was the murderous part. Was like I'm holding these classes, and like I maybe have like 5 or 6 kids who are there, and the rest are just... Like, I hear things, I might see a thing, maybe if they forgot that they left their camera on, but, like, I had no idea what they were doing, so...
Man, if I was 20 in that situation, would not be... I would just have that thing on in the background and not be paying attention whatsoever.
The worst was when I had a student who tried to claim... And this is back at the early part, we hadn't like gone completely online yet, said that he couldn't come in to do something or submit something because he had COVID. But we found, because our students were pretty connected, he was DJing a COVID party 2 nights prior. And so my partner and I, we had him for multiple classes in the department. We decided to, okay, you want to play this game? We'll play this game. So we're like, have you contacted your county Department of Health? What? No, I just had a little bit of no, if you said you had COVID, you need to contact these people right now. And then you need to contact everybody that you've seen in the last 48 hours. And you have to let them know this is what you've got so that they can go get tested. And like, he's having a panic attack. And he just didn't want to come out and say, like, I was acting a fool, because he didn't want to come in and do whatever. It wasn't even, I don't even think it was for me. It was for my one of my fellow faculty. He didn't want to do whatever exam thing that she had, and he was just caught in it. And he's just like, no, I'm pretty sure it's just the sniffles. I don't even think it's COVID. And I'm like, well, you got to get tested, man.
Oh man, that kid's he has some potential, but he can't fold so easy.
You got to get the backstory straight before you bring it out.
Yeah,
because like his students threw him under his fellow students threw him under the bus. They showed us pictures of, oh yeah, this was him at the party DJing. I was like, okay.
Well, awesome, Brian. Thank you very much for coming by. We're getting close to the end, and before we go, do you have any links? I'm going to put links to your Instagram and the book in the show notes. You have any other social media you'd like to point people to?
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks. So yeah, I have the Angry PhD on Facebook. So if you're on Instagram, you're pretty much getting the same stuff on Facebook, except for a couple of different videos I'll throw in on there. And then I also have a Reddit because I've learned that apparently PhDs don't have much of a sense of humor, or at least one that's not in a collective repository. So I've created a place called professormemes, where like anything that is academically related goes in there. I mean, there's other subreddits where professors like to gripe and complain, but that's everywhere. Everybody has their water cooler complaints, summits and stuff like that. But this is where, like, you know, people who just want memes of stuff, I have that repository as well. So it's my thing is I like to sort of poke fun at basically academia, because I can't believe how serious we take ourselves sometime, and sometimes it's just nice to laugh at some of the stupid things that we have to deal and go through. So yeah.
Well, that's an awesome message to convey, and like the whole vibe you've got going on with the angry PhD. So
yeah, I mean, I can get angry. I try to keep it limited. I mean, one of my students asked me one time, who's my inspirations? I said, Mr. Rogers and Lewis Black. And they were like, what? So
that's a good combo.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, we appreciate it, Brian. Appreciate your calling in the story. And hopefully we will have you on again as a winner in 3 months. If you can, okay. You can call in. You can call in a story anytime, but we just only let people win once every 3 months to try and keep fresh blood getting a chance. So
yeah, I don't blame you. People are already bored of my voice.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brian. Awesome having you on.
You got a crazy ass true story to tell. It could be funny or thrilling or creepy as hell. And when you speak it, surely none will make a sound. The world going breathless when your true story comes around. And now I'm gonna give a little word to the wise. The best stories we hear contain a little lies. And of course you should know, since stories ain't the same, don't blame us if yours about your grandma's cookies is lame. We wanna hear that Bigfoot bullshit. We wanna hear that crazy spaceship. The only way you'll ever win a buck is to make damn sure now your story don't suck. We love hearing werewolf funk. So y'all, instead of giving us a yawn, why not tell us about that werewolf on your lawn? And when you speak it, surely none will make a sound. The world going breathless when your true story comes around. Oh, the werewolf funk. The world going breathless when your true story comes around.
Hear that crazy bullshit flying. One more story before we dying. Oh, hear that crazy bullshit flying. One more story before we dying.
And now I'm gonna give a little word to the wise. The best stories we hear contain a little lies. And of course you should know, since stories ain't the same, don't blame us if yours about your grandma's cookies is lame.
We wanna hear that Bigfoot bullshit. We wanna hear that crazy spaceship.
The only way you'll ever win a buck is to make damn sure now your story don't suck. We love hearing werewolf funk. So y'all, instead of giving us a yawn, why not tell us about that werewolf on your lawn?
Go ahead and tell us that Bigfoot shit right now.
And when you speak it, surely none will make a sound. The world going breathless when your true story comes around. Love that werewolf funk. Oh, yeah. The world going
World going breathless when your true story comes around.